Okay, so here's a question. Do we forgive student loan debt?
Just forgive the interest to start off.
100%.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's insane to me that you could charge interest on loans that the government is
Seriously.
guaranteeing. Isn't the entire point of interest like, all right, I'm taking a risk by giving you this money. I don't know if I'm going to get it back, so I should have something to show for it. Because the federal government is just giving you the money, or it's guaranteed that you're going to get it back. The idea that you'd be able to charge interest is criminal.
But they want you to be permanently locked in place.
Yeah.
Good little workers who can't leave.
Exactly. No, that's what it is. That's why it works out for them.
So think about what's going on right now and how these urban millennials who went to college and have this massive debt are facing what's going on. Their debt's getting worse. The deferments, the interest rates piling up. They can't find work. And then along comes a Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I'll give you everything you've ever dreamed of.
I
would've
totally
been that
understand.
guy.
Yeah.
If this happened 20 years ago, if I was 20 years younger and I was 20 right now, I would be one of those people.
But you know what it is?
Bernie Sanders collectivist, let's burn it all down and undo all that. It would have been crazy.
You know why it's young people? Their net worth is $11,000.
Right.
They don't
Their
care.
probably net worth is negative, probably.
Well, actually, millennial net worth under 30 is negative. For college kids, yeah.
Yeah, but it makes sense. I mean, part of the difficulty, though, is like, if there was, and this is part of my problem with the whole idea of like free education, is I think you end up with the exact same problem that we have now. It just exacerbates itself because the whole idea was, again, let's let poor people go to college. We're going to do that by federally guaranteeing these student loans. As soon as the consumer is removed from the pricing structure and you just have the government with these bottomless pockets paying for everything, the price goes up. And then if it's based on loans, people end up with a lot more debt. I think what we need to focus on in this country is improving the 12 years of education that we do give to everybody to ensure that they can be prepared for the workforce, or better yet, just do away with that. I'm actually a big advocate of homeschooling. I think the public school system is completely broken, and I think we talked about this last time, but the idea that people are not prepared for the workforce after 12 years of state-funded education, and the solution is to give them another 4, to me, that's crazy.
Right.
I never
High
learned how to
school
write a
should be
check.
what college is.
Exactly. Yes. Completely agreed.
Like, teach me how to start a business. Teach me how to vote. They didn't teach me any of this stuff in high school.
Yeah.
Teach me how to write a check. I didn't learn how to write a check until college.
I know what it is.
What is it?
The aliens domesticating.
Alex.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
right.
I think you're right.
The aliens are conditioning us to be good workers.
That's
for
also
the-
true.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
100%. I
The
agree.
aliens are going to work for us. They're going to build more pyramids. That's what they did the last
This
time.
is the plan. Yeah.
We
That
built the
makes
pyramid.
sense.
They made us. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Isn't that
okay.
hilarious? Why would they do that? That'd be such a rude thing for aliens to do. Instead of like giving
like,
us
come
technology,
down.
they're going to like build some stone triangles for us.
Well, what if they need gold?
But what if they need
That's
it?
true.
Yeah.
They just have us do it.
Did we talk about this? Gold is their fuel.
This is like a really old conspiracy theory that's been on the internet for a long time. That they need gold to like replenish their atmosphere or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you ever see those lights?
Neil deGrasse Tyson said that. I think.
You know when they see
Well,
like
Neil deGrasse
orbs?
Tyson said a
Totally
meteor
kidding.
is going to crash into Earth the day on November 2nd. So,
Oh,
here's
Neil.
hoping.
And
Yeah,
I'm waiting.
yeah.
So is there actually a meteor coming close or something?
Yeah.
there
But I
is,
think
yeah.
it's really small. I think it's like 6 feet. Like,
So-
it's like super tiny.
Can I loop it back a little bit?
Yeah,
Because I
please.
know this is something we've talked about a little bit. This is something that I'm very compassionate with millennials on, because it makes a big difference to me that millennials, I would like them to be happy and balanced and everything. And I think that part of the reason that they're having so much problem is that they have been sold a false bill of goods. I think
Yep.
they've been told that they can go to college and get whatever job they want, and it's not true. It's
Yeah.
nonsense. It's a bunch of nothing.
Yeah, you know what I think one of the biggest problems we have as a society? First, I mean, it starts young. What do American kids do from the ages of 0 to 5 years old?
Watch Sesame Street.
Nothing.
Yeah, I do nothing.
Sit around,
Nothing.
watch TV.
I think it depends.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the
Stare at
household.
an iPad.
Well, for sure, but on
Yeah.
average, like a lot of kids are doing nothing, especially in cities.
Well, what
I think there are a lot of parents, who do just sit their kids in front of the TV
or the
That's
tablet
probably true.
or whatever.
well, what
Yeah.
should
I would-
you do?
I was being homeschooled.
I was too.
That's good.
Yeah,
Me
from
too.
a very,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
early age.
That's true. Before I went off to school, my mom did teach me to read.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really bad at it. So no, I'm
Well, so-
kidding.
so-
I'm
so
kidding.
listen,
Safety
no, that's the
Patrol,
thing
that
too.
was
Like
fun.
my mom taught me and all of my siblings to read before we ever went off to school, and we were just ahead of the other kids in our class.
Exactly.
Because guess what? No one's ever going to be able to teach your kid as well as you can.
Exactly. Bingo.
I entered school knowing, like I'm in kindergarten, I knew multiplication and division and all this math that was like grades above everybody else. I had my vocabulary was several years higher than the rest of the kids.
Did you skip grades?
No.
I bet if you did, you wouldn't have dropped out. You
Why?
just would have finished because you just would have finished
No,
when you
it
were
was
12 or
trash.
13.
I was 14. I went to high school, and they were like, "Okay, now open the book because you're all morons and read the passage
you
about
could
how
have
you're all
graduated high
morons."
school by the time you were 14.
I think you could.
I probably
That's what
could
I'm
have just skipped it.
Yeah.
I probably
You
could have
could've,
just.
yeah.
It was a
You
waste
would
of
have
time.
been like a 10-year-old in high school, probably.
So what?
It's all stupid.
What
It's a
we
waste
did
of
in
time.
Colorado is
Sure
that we had
was.
people go straight into college in high school. You would go into high school and come out with a college degree.
Oh
which I
yeah,
thought was
yeah.
wonderful.
We
That was
we
really
had stuff
neat.
like that.
Yeah,
like
it's
you'd
neat,
spend a
right?
certain
Or
amount
you
of
do
time.
like AP classes. Is that kind of what you're
Kinda
talking
like
about?
that.
But so anyway, look,
I didn't
here's
do any of those.
here's a point I'm getting to.
was very dumb.
Not only was I homeschooled before I was 5 years old, I was like, as early as I could possibly communicate, my mom was teaching me, my siblings. My family started a business, and I worked for the family business when I was like 9 years old. So my family started my mom started a cafe, and so I was helping prepare drinks. She was showing me like management and stuff. So I'm like 10 years old.
Yeah.
I'm learning from the real world. I'm sitting next to adults as they complain about politics, and I was immersed in all of it. So by the time I was 17, and they're like, it's time for college, I was like, why?
Yeah.
I get it. But so what happens now is you've got 18-year-old kids, and they're kids. They're not adults. They're not 18-year-old men, 18-year-old women. They're 18-year-old kids. And they're like, here, sign this paper where you can never have this debt cleared through bankruptcy or anything. It's attached to you forever.
Freaking insane.
The interest rates are psychotic, and you have no idea how this works because we've never taught you. Sign it.
Yeah, they don't teach compound interest either.
Yeah, why not?
That's also
Seriously, why not? It makes perfect sense.
No, it's true. It's
It's
crazy, and there are workarounds.
But we forgive the interest. Is that what we're saying?
I would say forgive the interest. I would.
You're a
tricky.
commie.
I am a
You
commie.
admit.
Well, no, you're right. You got me. I'm a communist. Well, no, I
True.
think that it's insane. I think it's insane for corporations to be able to profit off of public money.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who believes in a free market, I think that's just like antithetical to my principles in general. But even so, I believe in a free market, but I'm okay. I believe it's all right to have some exceptions here and there. I'm not completely dogmatic on it. When it comes to student loan forgiveness in general, I'm not sure. I think if we could work it out in a way where, my fear is if we did it, we would push the problem off further into the future and perpetuate the same system of college becoming more and more expensive. And then people who didn't go to college because they wanted to save the money are going to end up with the tax burden of forgiving those debts for people who did go to college. And so it's not, if it was just like we could waive away all of the debt, I would say absolutely yes. And I certainly believe that we should prevent these banks from being able to collect any more interest on them. But I don't know.
Didn't Trump suspend the interest rates during COVID?
Yeah. Till
Yeah.
the end
And
of
I was
December.
saying that earlier in the year, and then Trump did it, and I'm like, once again, how is the Republicans are doing the things that help the poor in these situations? You know what I mean?
A couple of things. One, I fully agree with you guys about homeschooling from 0 to 5, teaching kids mathematics, multiplication and division. Do it because kids can learn math at the age of 3. That's where we're at. Humanity is a genius. We have the internet. You can do it.
Cool
Secondly,
stuff,
do you agree with defaulting on the debt to the Federal Reserve?
I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it. I've heard a little bit, and the Federal Reserve has been a topic of interest for me for a while. But when it comes to defaulting on the loan to them,
Wouldn't that
I need
crash
to
the
give that
global
more
economy?
thought.
Not if we default
Well,
the
then
interest.
if yes, then I'm in favor of it. No.
Exactly. I'm in. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's get crazy, kids. Yeah, I'm not sure.
If we defaulted on the interest only is what I'm talking about.
What would that do?
Save our country
It
like
would be
$20
rad.
trillion.
It'd be super cool.
But what is
Then we
look?
could put that money into other things.
Yeah, I guess I think it's a purposefully complicated system so that no one really has any idea, and then everyone spends their time arguing about one section of it over here, and then no one really knows. But I can tell you, the system as we have it set up right now, it's very difficult for people to save unless you go into a market or make some kind of investment account or whatever.
Yeah.
But now that interest rates are in the gutter because of COVID, it's like, what do? You just got to spend money and build something. So ultimately, the best thing you can do, start a business, make money for yourself. The problem is, going back to what I was saying before, we have a bunch of young people. They spend, listen, let me ask you a question. What were you doing when you were 13 years old?
When I was 13 years old, I was actually starting to teach myself to animate, and I was also buying broken computers and fixing them so I could resell them.
And now
Oh,
here
cool.
you are, you have a show, you animate, you've got a couple hundred. How many
Perfect.
subscribers do you have?
460,000.
Boom. Very successful YouTube
465.
channel.
Yeah, thank you. Very blessed.
So I when I was 13, I was playing music, I was skateboarding, I was doing Flash animation, I was doing Flash
Yeah, me too.
websites,
Yeah.
video games, I was working on all this stuff, and generally hanging out with people and learning how the computers worked and all this stuff. A bunch of other people I know who ended up going to college, getting a degree they didn't need because they didn't know what they were doing, with massive debt. I said, "What were you doing when you were 13?" They were like, "Nothing, riding bikes." That's it. They would go out and play with their friends. They would go to school and do the bare minimum. And so we have young people who are being raised by a system that does not teach them to do anything. And now we have a generation of millennials who can't do anything.
Yeah.
And their net worth is really low, and they're in massive debt, and they can't find jobs. Then COVID hits, and now you got communism.
Yeah. No,
The only way out is if I don't got stuff and you do, I get your stuff.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I used to tell my parents, they were like, what do you want to do And I said, I want to be an actor. And then they said, well, then you should start acting.
I want to be a
absolutely.
communist and take
They said
people's
start
stuff.
acting like it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I auditioned for a play when I was 16. I was a little later to the table.
Yeah.
I was 16 when I started.
It's all good.
Before that, I was working at a job playing magic cards. But I had my own job since I was 12.
Yeah.
Walking dogs.
I remember in high school working this
Walking a
really,
dog.
really lame job I had. It was a friend of ours. I don't want to say the name of the company because they will get hashtag canceled for hiring me in high school. But it was literally like an ushering / security business where you would just stand there for between like a 12 and 16-hour shift and just tell people no, like either let me see your ticket or no, you can't use that door. And then people would like yell at you for things that were clearly not your fault, which happens to low-level workers constantly.
Yep.
Like people, this is the thing, man. People will go to McDonald's and think that the kid behind the counter is stupid, but like I guarantee you he thinks you're a moron because he gets asked such dumb questions by all the customers all day.
You know, dude, we were just I was just at a fast food
About the
place.
same thing.
We were just at a fast food place. It was a Nathan's Hot Dogs.
What?
The guy was such
And
a jerk.
some guy walked up and he started yelling at the workers there.
It's horrible.
He's like, look at this, and he opens the hot dog thing, and they were just like, well done. I don't want to say they were burned. He was like, look at those hot dogs and look at this. Why would you give me this? And then she's like, I don't know. And
She's
he's
like, because
give
I
me
don't like
those.
you.
Yeah.
Give me
I
those.
did it. It was personal.
I
Well, the
know, I
crazy
really
thing is,
don't.
I'm like, dude, if you went up and you were like, hey, I'm sorry to bug you, but like these hot dogs kind of suck. Can I get the good
They're
ones?
giving you good
Oh.
ones.
She might be like, I don't care, it's not my money. Like, you got it. You don't got to be mean. Not
Yeah,
only that,
yeah.
like, she might hook it up. She might be like, dude, I'm not the manager here. Let me give you the best ones possible. I'm sorry
exactly.
about that.
It doesn't
It's
have
like,
to
why
be
be
towards
mean
them.
to people?
I don't know. Is
That's
this
the thing,
like
people
it feels
just-
good or something?
Well, people just have a tendency of taking their anger out on whoever they can get away with taking their anger out on. It's not
true.
necessarily
So what-
personal. It's horrible, though. I agree.
So here's the other thing. So there was an article recently. Recently, I mean, it's like the other day. It's in the Atlantic, saying that voting for Joe Biden is the right thing to do if you are worried about the woke left
Yeah,
or the
what?
illiberal left.
I saw
What a
that go
great
by.
plan. Yeah.
Like, that's like blackmail. Like, don't, if you're afraid of getting your throat cut, vote for the guy that's threatening you with the
Exactly.
knife.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
exactly.
wait, hold on.
That's kind of
That's what
brilliant.
they say.
Yeah.
They're like, if someone tries taking your stuff, just give it to them. Just give up.
Jeez,
That's what they
dude.
tell you to do.
That's
No.
So
isn't that letting the terrorists win? Isn't that like the whole
Yes.
thing we've
Yes.
talked about for
Well,
20 years?
so
Uh-huh.
so
Can't let
here's the thing, right?
terrorists win.
They're saying that Donald Trump fans the flames of the illiberal left or whatever, and I'm like, Joe Biden's negotiating with them. I'd rather have the guy fighting against them. But anyway, I digress. So there was another article by Helen Pluckrose that made a similar argument, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but basically when I responded with, you know, why would I vote for the guy? Like, it would just justify their tactics, the violence and the extremism. And her response was, I wouldn't vote for Antifa either. I felt like, I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but to me, that she was arguing Joe Biden is not Antifa. Okay, well, of course, Joe Biden isn't.
Technically.
Of course, Joe Biden is not a socialist. He's just the guy on bent knee begging them for their votes because he
Yeah.
doesn't have a coalition to defeat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So he's already done the Bernie Sanders pact. He's already negotiating with them. He won't call them out. But more importantly, in New York, just the other day, a bunch of people were throwing eggs and rocks at Trump supporters in their cars.
Yep.
And apparently, I think it was a woman, ran up to an SUV and pepper sprayed everyone, including the children.
Dude.
What a good.
That's not Antifa. Oh, okay, listen,
That's-
there's not
yeah.
it was just some Brooklyn leftist. These are the people saying Trump is bad. I'm not gonna give them what they want. They pepper sprayed kids because a guy had a Trump flag. So I'm not voting for this guy. You know what I mean?
You remember when John Oliver said Orange Man bad and then pepper sprayed his audience? It's
I don't.
horrible.
Wait, he did?
No, I
I'm
don't
kidding.
remember that.
No,
I
you
don't
get-
remember that,
Well,
man.
I should be less dry. It was,
Yeah, no, I
no,
don't remember that one.
Not
I was just thinking of
literally
like a
pepper
very.
spraying.
I was thinking of like a very establishment guy, but
Well,
So here's
yeah.
why I bring this up. You got all of these young people who have been pushed into this grinder.
Yeah.
They have massive debt. They can't pay it off. The interest is piling up. COVID happens, and now they go insane. And so I'm in favor of forgiving that interest. But these people have snapped. Now they're throwing eggs at people, pepper spraying kids. Not all of them, not every single one. But how often do you hear about these stories where a Trump supporter gets attacked? There's like several thousand stories like this over the past 4 years where they're getting harassed, attacked, threatened in the street. These people have snapped. And what it is, many of them need a symbol of what they hate to attack,
Yeah, that's
to
right.
damage, right?
That's right.
Why did the far leftists throw a brick through the Starbucks window, right? Because Starbucks is a massive corporation that symbolizes their hatred and their anger.
Yeah.
And you oppress me. So they throw a brick through the window. It does nothing. It does nothing to help their cause. It hurts their cause, but it feels good.
yeah.
Now people have replaced that symbol of the big corporations with Trump. So now they see a Trump supporter and they're like, you. And they're taking all of that anger and they're directing it towards random people who are waving flags. That's
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. And I'm sympathetic to a lot of the struggles that people discuss, younger people going through right now. I've said this in the past. I mean, I'm unbelievably blessed. I came from a 2-parent home. I was raised with like really solid Catholic values. I was just set up in a lot of the best possible ways to be set up. So I absolutely don't look down on anybody because their circumstances are harder. I just think that the solutions being proposed by the left are horrible. And I think they're taking advantage of people who are going through extremely difficult times. And I would also say this, there was a time when like, instead of telling people to check their privilege, we'd tell them to like count their blessings because we wanted people to be grateful instead of feeling guilty. And that's more or less where I'm at. Like, I got a lot of great things out of life. I've been tremendously blessed. I don't feel guilty about that. I feel grateful for that. I thank God every day for the life that I've gotten because I've gotten so much that I don't deserve. But to say that the solution to that is to like bend over and have this white guilt and tell people, take whatever you want from me, implement whatever system makes you happier that you think in the moment might be best for this country, despite all of the evidence saying it will never work, is completely insane. But that's exactly what they want. That's exactly why they want people to feel guilt.
This is the interesting thing about wealth inequality arguments and Andrew Yang saying like abolish poverty or whatever. I don't know exactly what his hat said, but something to that effect. Because we are actively abolishing poverty. Capitalism is doing that. Like the curve is like going way down. Like poor people in this country are poor, but many of them have air conditioning.
Well, that's the thing, right? So about 99% of the world population subsists off of less than $30,000 per year or makes less than $30,000 per year. So if you make 30 grand a year or more, you are in the top 1% of the global economy.
Totally, yeah.
And also global poverty has been decreasing for decades, unfortunately, until these lockdowns, which shut down our production chain. Now there are more people, for the first time in decades, or I believe 2 decades, there are more people at risk for starvation this year than there were last year. And it's a massive swath. So yeah, things are going in the opposite direction, but that also shows you, and that can help inform us on people making claims like, oh, how could you put economics above human life? Anytime you want to
because they don't know what economics means.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know what economics means. They think it's just some abstraction that Wall Street has convinced us in believing it. Yes, exactly. But all economics is about is like promoting human well-being and flourishing. And when you shut down the entire economy, guess what happens? People starve to death. And it's hilarious because the left was arguing for so long that if you even want to cut a penny of welfare spending, then poor people are just going to die. Because when people don't have money, they don't have access to resources. And when they don't have access to resources, they die. But we can shut down the entire global economy for 3 months and no one's going to die because of that. We're actually going to save lives. So that's insane.
Here's the interesting thing about wealth inequality. I always hear they're like, Jeff Bezos is worth $100 and whatever billion and there are people sleeping in the streets. That's a huge problem for our country. And those are two completely separate things that are completely unrelated. If you took away Jeff Bezos' money, you're not going to get people not living on the streets. These people fundamentally don't understand how wealth works or how homelessness works.
No.
They just think. I love it when people say things like, think about how many empty homes we have. We could put homeless people in them. And it's like, you can't just do that. People who say that clearly have never owned a home. Understanding how much work goes into it. What happens if you put a homeless guy in a house and then the plumbing breaks or the house burns down because of faulty wiring and the dude dies?
And what happens to the real estate market and all the people who actually have a mortgage in a home that they spend all this money on? What happens to like their property value of their home? And then what happens to people who make their business or make their money renting? I mean, you would actually have to radically restructure the entire economy to do something like that. It's not just a question of putting homeless people in homes. That said, there are solutions. Like there are ways on the table and things that we can discuss to get homeless people housing 100%.
That's not the issue though.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The issue is homelessness is driven mostly by mental health.
Exactly.
So for these people to come out and say, people shouldn't be homeless, we should tax the wealthy, it's not right. It's like, those are two entirely different universes. You know what one of my favorite sayings is from people?
What?
Feed the homeless.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yeah.
We want to go out and feed the homeless. I'm like, bro.
Why?
They're not foodless.
Yeah.
They're homeless.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
And
just because they don't live anywhere doesn't mean they're hungry. You want to feed the hungry. That's what you want to do. But there's like these weird things, and these people, they have good intentions, and I respect it. But I actually worked as a director at a homeless shelter. I actually worked for many nonprofits. And the problem is mental health and choices people make. No amount of money, because some of the shelters were empty. Mm-hmm. Why? Homeless people didn't want to be in them. They wanted to be
do drugs.
Well,
and
a lot of here's the thing. A lot of shelters are empty now because of COVID. You talk to homeless people, they will tell you like, I can't get anywhere to stay right now because the shelters in my city are closed down because of COVID-19. Another thing that's interesting is, and I mean, it's good to feed homeless people. I firmly believe that. But a lot of it is like, again, this problem of them not having housing as opposed to not having food. Though again, I believe we should feed them. That said, so many homeless people have said to me, don't mess with drugs, don't mess with alcohol, which is an interesting thing to say. Like they'll start sort of explaining some of the things that ruin their lives and encouraging you not to do it. Now, I'm not saying because they ruin their lives in these ways that we just let them hang there. Absolutely not. But it's a horrible tragedy, and a big part of it was the deinstitutionalization movement that we had in the 1970s.
Yeah.
So even without even adjusting for changes in our population size, there are less people in mental health facilities today than there were before the 70s, which is completely insane. And I think that's part of why we're seeing more massacres. I think it's part of, mental illness has become a much more serious issue in this country because we don't take it as seriously as we used to.
Yes.
And I think that's also why homelessness is such a problem, because there are people who should be in the hospital. They should be in a mental health facility, but they're not. They're out on the streets instead.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.